It feels like the UK property market just woke up. If you look at the headline numbers for January 2026, it seems like the shelves are suddenly, well, fully stocked.
Oh, it's a massive shift. We're deep diving into the latest data from Zoopla today, and it's showing that home buyers are seeing biggest selection of properties for sale in a New Year period since, what, at least 2018?
Which on the surface just looks like a buyer's paradise, right?
You'd think so.
But our mission for this deep dive is to look past that top-line number. Because when you actually dig into the age of those listings, a very, very different picture starts to emerge. We're not just seeing a boom, we're seeing a backlog.
Right. The key statistic everyone is quoting is that the average estate agent started 2026 with 32 homes for sale.
At 8-year high.
Exactly. But the quality, or maybe the freshness of that inventory is the real story here.
And this is the stat that really just jumped out at me. 33% of this supposedly new January inventory. It isn't new at all. It's carryover.
Yes, and that is such a crucial distinction. A third of the market right now is stock that was listed in 2025 and just failed to sell.
Wow.
So while the supply chart goes up and to the right, you have to mentally discount a third of that as, well, a bit stale.
So it creates this kind of inventory illusion. You log on to Rightmove or Zoopla, and it looks like everyone decided to sell their house this morning. But in reality, what you've got is this mix of genuinely fresh, motivated sellers, and then this large group of people who were probably overpriced last year and are just still waiting.
And that specific mix is what's dictating the market dynamics. It isn't some flood of new, exciting properties. It's more like a bottleneck releasing.
A bottleneck. That's a good way to put it.
And it's not happening everywhere evenly. I mean, if you look at the geographic breakdown, this supply spike is heavily, heavily skewed towards London and the Southeast.
Which makes total sense given the political timeline. The Southeast was basically paralyzed by all that uncertainty around the autumn budget last year. Everyone just froze.
Exactly. High-value markets are always more sensitive to tax speculation. People just sat on their hands waiting to see what the chancellor would do.
And now that the uncertainty is cleared, that pent-up supply has just hit the market all at once.
All at once.
So if I'm reading the economics of this right, this surplus in the South basically puts a hard ceiling on price inflation there. Just simple supply and demand,
Yeah.
You can't really push your price up when you're competing with 30 other houses on the same street.
That is the reality. In the South, price inflation is effectively being suffocated by all this supply.
Okay.
But, and this is really important for anyone listening outside the M25, the rest of the UK is a different story. The North, the Midlands, they don't have this massive inventory overhang. Zoopla describes those markets as stable, not booming.
So no big price drops there, but not a crazy seller's market either.
Pretty much. They don't have the same downward pressure on prices that you're seeing in the Southeast.
Okay, let's talk strategy then. Because if I'm a buyer in the Southeast, I might look at this 33% backlog and think, I have all the power here.
Well, you have more power, certainly. Demand is rebounding after a pretty sluggish end to 2025. But buyers are incredibly price sensitive right now. They aren't rushing into anything.
Right. They're looking at that 1/3 of stale inventory and asking, so why didn't this sell 3 months ago?
Exactly. And that is the danger for sellers. Richard Donnell from Zoopla was pretty blunt about this. He is warning against what you might call aspirational pricing.
The classic error.
It is. It's the classic error in a high supply market. Sellers see all the activity and think they can push the price a bit. But because buyers have 32 homes to choose from per agent, they just ignore the overpriced ones.
They just scroll right past.
Donnell's data shows it clear as day. Homes priced correctly from the outset sell quickly. The ones that aim too high just end up adding to that stale statistic we were talking about.
And then you start chasing the market down, don't you? You list high, get no viewings, you drop the price a bit, but by then the listing is old and buyers are wondering what's wrong with it. You end up selling for less than if you just priced it accurately on day one.
Precisely. In 2026, quantity does not equal quality. The market is active, yes, but it is unforgiving of mistakes.
So the big takeaway here is really nuanced. The boom in supply is real, but it's heavily diluted by older stock, and it's happening specifically in the South. For buyers, it's a time to be picky. For sellers, it's a time to be very, very realistic.
That's it in a nutshell. You just can't confuse market activity with easy money.
So before we wrap up, here's a thought to chew on. We know a third of the market is carryover from 2025. Eventually, those sellers are going to get tired of waiting, right?
They will.
So what happens if that 33% decides to cut their losses all at the same time? Could we see a sudden wave of aggressive price reductions that completely resets the comparables for everyone, even for the brand new listings? It feels like a very precarious balance. Thanks for listening to this deep dive.